Kia ora! Welcome to 5 Reasons Why, the show where I give you 5 reasons why something is the way it is, and then immediately undo that shit by giving you 1 reason why it's not. CES finally provided us with confirmation that Sony's next generation VR headset is an actual thing. Up to now, the internet's had to dine out on a series of leaks and patents, but it's been pretty much assured that Sony was going to capitalize on their 2016 VR headset. Now, to be honest, we didn't get a great deal of detail from this announcement. We didn't get a price, we didn't get a launch date, and we didn't even really get any software lineup. So we're gonna have to take some uneducated guesses with this list. That being said, this is 5 reasons why the PlayStation VR 2 might be in for some trouble on landing, and 1 reason it'll probably be fine. Straight off the bat, Sony's new VR headset might have some trouble finding its footing with the emerging VR community if it continues to be just a gaming headset. 6 years ago, when the first PSVR was released, it was okay to just be a gaming headset. They didn't have any real competition, everything else was on PC and cost like 6 times as much. Not so much the case now. Fast forward to 2022 and you now have to deal with the Oculus Quest 2 from Metaverse. Those guys. Just over 1 year, the Oculus Quest has essentially racked up just over 40% market share. That's ridiculous. That is a lot. Now, obviously, the Oculus Quest 2 is nowhere near as powerful as the PlayStation VR 2, but it is a better all-rounded VR headset, well, at least as far as we know so far. But look into the future, it doesn't look like Oculus wants to slow down anytime soon. Heck, I wouldn't be surprised if we get an Oculus 3 by the time the PlayStation VR 2 is even out. They have a plan for the future. They have envisioned their metaverse, so they're gonna do everything they can to make sure that happens. And Sony, well, they need to make sure they keep up. So as of now, Sony has said diddly squat about the metaverse. The problem being that their current headset is actually missing a number of mainstream software titles. There's no Netflix, there's no VR chat, things that are mainstay on any VR headset today. And the fact that they've not mentioned any of this going forward into the PSVR 2, well, it's worth considering. So Sony's new headset boasts some very impressive specs. Unfortunately, the cost of those specs is to keep you tethered to your PS5 via a USB-C cable. To anyone who's already experienced the freedom of the Quest, this might be an immediate put-off knowing that you no longer have that freedom. It's an immersion buster, and busting immersion with virtual reality headsets is a big no-no. Now, don't get me wrong, this is still a vast improvement from the current PSVR headset that makes you feel like you're tethered to the bloody Matrix. I might just be nitpicking, but immersion is important, if not the most important thing about VR. So if your option is to be free or to be tied to something, you might still lean towards that one there. That's free. Freedom. Yes, the chip shortage. If you haven't just woken up from a coma in the last 2 years, you've probably noticed that some technology is getting harder to get your hands on. Now, there are many reasons for this, but one of the major driving causes of this problem is that everyone suddenly needed to work and educate from home. Yeah. Now, the chip shortage is so bad that governments are actively setting up production companies in their own countries instead of outsourcing it to Taiwan, who have their own problems right now. It's mostly chip stuff. Chips. The knock-on effect of this is there is a shortage in home technologies, things that you like, anything from a microwave, so let's say a PlayStation 5, are very hard to get your hands on right now. At this point, a year after the consoles come out, it is nigh on impossible to buy one without taking out a third mortgage on your home and buying one from a scalper for some exorbitant, ridiculous price. If Sony want to release a new VR headset that relies solely on a piece of technology that nobody can actually fucking buy, they're immediately going to find themselves on the back foot. To fully put this into perspective, Back in 2016, when the PSVR first launched, there were over 50 million PlayStation 4 consoles already on the market. The console had already been out for a number of years, I think 4. I probably should have looked that up before I started spouting things. If the rumored end 2022 date for this PSVR 2 launch is correct, you would likely only see somewhere between 15 and 20 million PS5s in consumers' hands. Not good. Price will be a little bit contentious because we don't actually know the price yet. But we can make an educated guess because we've seen what Sony has done in the past. So in all likelihood, Sony's probably going to try and price match with Oculus. Oculus being their direct competitor, or the closest thing to a direct competitor. Now, when we've seen them go toe-to-toe with Microsoft in the past, they tend to keep it to within $50 to $100 of whatever the price point is. Sorry, some noises outside and I was scared. So let's say the PSVR 2 probably comes in around the $400, $450 mark, and that's probably a very low estimate based on what the Oculus is retailing for at the time. You then have to factor in the price of a PlayStation 5 if you haven't got one, and by some miracle you have managed to find one, and you're getting up towards the $1,000 mark once you've added in any software or peripherals that you want. Peripherals? What's the word I'm looking for? Once you start to get to that $1,000 mark, well, you start to look at the entry point for some computers that can also run VR, and, you know, some people, given the decision, Sony has a proven track record of building brilliant gaming consoles and games. They compete well with Microsoft and Nintendo and often outdo them. This doesn't mean they're not capable of tripping themselves up and stubbornly refusing to let go of bad ideas. Now, we know this because they've done it before. Now, in 2022, nostalgia goggles might look kindly on Sony's foray into the handheld gaming market. But let's be honest, it wasn't exactly a screaming success. When Sony released the PSP Go, the smallest version of their PSP range in 2009, it was a digital-only console. That means you could only buy games through the PlayStation Store online or through the console itself. Surprise, surprise, retailers did not like this. Retailers didn't like this so much, many of them refused to sell the product. Now, I'm not sure how Sony didn't see this coming. Retailers make their money off the games, not the consoles. So why would you expect them to go and sell your console when it's literally going to be taking money out of their own pocket? And for some reason, Sony seems somewhat bemused by this whole ordeal. They couldn't understand why retailers didn't want to sell their product for the love of Sony. Lo and behold, within 2 years of retailers refusing to sell the PSP Go, they had stopped making it completely. That's right, it's not all doom and gloom. Our one reason why is a very good one reason. And it's as simple as Sony has a track record of making very good technology, especially when it comes to video games. Sony is loading this headset with some very next-gen tech. We're talking about 3D audio, we're talking about eye tracking, we're talking about spatial vibrations. These all add to immersion, and like I said earlier, immersion is key. And those are just new features. They've improved on the old features like you would expect. 4K display, 120 Hz refresh rate, all those fantastic things you expect to find in a new generation VR headset, as well as some spunky looking new controllers, which is good because the old ones are really old, like PlayStation 3 old. Now, it's not just the physical technology that Sony is very good at. Sony is very good at building worlds. And they are also very good at buying companies that are good at building worlds. We've already had a new Horizons game announced, and it's looking like it's going to be much more of a full game than maybe the smaller tech demos you might experience in VR today. And it's not just games, and it's not just hardware. We've also seen Sony come through with some interesting social experiences in the past. For those who can remember, the PlayStation 3 had its own virtual social space, PlayStation Home. This was very much akin to, say, Second Life back in whenever the PlayStation 3 came up. I didn't look at one. Sorry. Now, PlayStation Home lets you have your own apartment that you can fill with your own furniture and customize your own avatar, much like you can in the likes of VR Chat. Now, while PlayStation Home was retired, it's not inconceivable to think that Sony might bring back PlayStation Home for their new VR headset. Sony hasn't come outright and said what they want to do in the Metaverse yet, so it really is an open book, but it's not a terrible idea to use old IP and give it some new life in a setting that makes sense. So that's it for this episode of 5 Reasons Why. We looked at why Sony's new VR console might have a rough journey through the virtual birth canal, and one reason why it'll probably be fine. It'll probably be fine, guys. It's probably gonna be fine. Hey, do you agree with me? If not, that is also okay. Let me hear about it in the comments. Do you plan on buying a PSVR 2 or an Oculus Quest or any VR headset for that matter? I want to hear about it. I want to know what you think. Anywho, that's it for now. Have a great day. Take it easy. Ka kite anō. Cheers.